What's up YouTube, NCG here, bringing you a Vendread deck profile. Now, with Extreme Forces coming up last week, we did get new support for Vendread, and we actually received 4 new cards for Vendread, and all 4 are in this deck, some more important than others, most noticeably Vendread Battlelord. So what I'm going to do is I'll take you through the deck, I'll show you what we've got. I have tried to keep this as budget as possible because it can be made quite cheaply and easily. I'll take you through some of the prices as I go, and then I'll show you what I would add in should I want to put more money into the deck itself. So, without further ado, we'll start straight with the monsters, and we play double Vendread Battlelord. Now, this is the brand new monster, and he's kind of like a Shockmaster during your turn only. So, when it's ritual summoned, you can declare one type, monster, spell, or traps, and for the rest of this turn, your opponent cannot activate cards or effects for that type. If the ritual summon card is sent to the graveyard, you add 1 ritual monster from your deck to your hand, and if you do, send 1 Vendread monster from your deck to the graveyard. Now, obviously, what would have been better is if it was a quick play, with maybe some kind of cost. So obviously, rather it being as busted as Shockmaster, or even if it was as busted as Shockmaster, it would have been nice to get it in the Vendread deck to see a bit more play of it. If it was like quick play, during each player's turn, discard 1 card, declare 1 card type, you can only use this effect once per turn, something like that. Make it a hard once per turn, so even if you had 2 Battlelords, you couldn't stack it. And then, you know, that would have been quite nice of a card for the deck to play. Anyway, we play that at 2. We also play Vendread Slayer at 2. Now, the reason we play Slayer at 2 is mainly because it is your only pre-prep of rights target, because the ritual spell specifically lists Vendread Slayer. So that is kind of your main target on that. And the 1 Chimera, level 5 is a little bit awkward to make, but it's still powerful, it's just not as good as the other 2. So, you know, you don't need to worry about pumping your resources too much in Chimera, but it is a nice little out to certain boards. We then play double Vendread Core. Now, this is a brand new card and is very, very powerful. So when it is used as a ritual material on the field, your opponent cannot target that ritual monster with card effects. It is a level 1, so it helps boost you into your level 5s and, of course, into your level 7s, which is your Battlelord. And it does give you a couple more, which is why we play it at 2. It also shares the same effects as Vendread, whereas you get to discard. So this one is you banish 1 other zombie monster in your graveyard and special summon it, and then other ones are like, you know, you can discard 1 Vendread card, special summon it. It just gives you a couple more options to bring them back. The only other one we play at 2 is Hound, and the reason we play this at 2 is because this deals with the back row. So if you're going to be running into any heavy storms, it also lets your Battlelord be a little bit better. So if you're playing stuff like BA or floaters or anything like that, you can activate your Battlelord effect, call monsters to deal with that, and then use its effective Hound to deal with the back row as well. But what you do have to be very, very careful of is strikes, because obviously you can't strike a ritual summon, but you can strike their effects. We then play the 1 Revenant. Now, this one deals with a special summon monster. The reason we only play it at 1 is because it does specifically state target 1 special summon monster your opponent controls and banish it. So it does have to be special summoned. We play the 1 Striges, and this one is basically after damage calculation. If it battles, you can draw 1 card and discard 1 card. So again, not as effective as the rest, but it's still very, very useful. We then play a standard zombie engine of triple Shiranui Solitaire, you know, very, very staple in a deck like this. Triple Mizuki, again, very staple. And double Unizombie. Now, this is a 2-edged sword. I played this this weekend, and basically, you know, unreal. I did play 2 games where I opened up both Unizombies, and it did mean that my Shiranuis were slightly dead because I don't play Spectral Sword in the deck, which is another option you can play. You can also play Zombie Master as well as another option, but that's entirely down to you on how you'd like to play the build. I continue to go with the 1 Gozuki, the 1 Spirit Master, and double Snow, because in this deck, banishing is not the end of the world. You do play a couple of cards to recycle it, and then you'll get your Shiranui and your Spirit Master effects off more consistently, and Snow is always going to be a pain. In a 60 card version, definitely bump Snow up, but for that, nothing too more. Now, through all these monsters here, your most expensive one is probably your Shiranui Solitaire at about £4 each on a reprint from the Megatin 17. Snow's commons are about £1 give or take, so the whole kind of little bit of monsters isn't that expensive. Next up for the spells, we play triple Vendread Charge. Now, I only played this at 2 at the weekend. It was a definite bump up for me. Trying to find the space, it was a pain, but it is just that important. You send 1 zombie monster from your hand or face up from your field to the graveyard, and special summon 1 Vendread monster from your deck. You can only activate 1 Vendread Charge per turn. Now, obviously, this combos off very, very well, and it can help get your Vendread cards to board for your ritual summons in order to make them what you need to and give them the additional effects. Triple Vendread Origin, the ritual spell, again, very, very powerful. It's a shame it is only once per turn. So it can be used to ritual summon any Vendread ritual monster from your hand or graveyard, which is also important, but you must tribute monsters from hand or field and or banish zombie monsters from your graveyard whose total levels equal or exceed the level of the ritual monster you ritual summoned. If a Vendread Slayer or Slayers you control would be destroyed by card effect, you banish this card from your graveyard instead. So what I mean, like, you can obviously use multiple of these, but what I mean is the banish effect is quite limited. The fact that it's both good and bad, because it specifically says Vendread Slayer. Of course, you can then use Pre-Prep of Rites, but because it only protects Vendread Slayer, it should have said Vendread Slayer or Slayers or any other zombie, like zombie or Vendread monster. That would have been very, very cool. Regardless, still very, very powerful. And then, of course, thank you to the ban list, we now have free pre-preparation of rights. You get to add a level 7 or lower ritual monster from your deck to your hand, which all your ritual monsters are. And then you get to add a ritual spell from your graveyard. So if you haven't banished it, you're bringing it back, which is why you play kind of Omega in the extra deck as well, because you can recycle your spells. Now, I am only playing 2 pre-prep of rights. Now, the reason I'm only playing 2 pre-prep of rights, you can play this at 3 because, believe it or not, there is the ability of putting Slayer back into the deck. So that does give you the ability of kind of using it again, should you need to. And obviously, you do want to see it in your opening hand just to get that ritual spell to hand, so you can play this at 3 if you want. I'm going to try it out at 2, just to kind of see how it works, in the sense that if I haven't got Slayer back into the deck and a ritual spell back into the deck, the third one is a dead card, unfortunately. It's still incredibly powerful. You could definitely play it at 3. I'm just giving it a trial out at 2. I'm also trying out 2 Allure of Darknesses. Now, again, I probably highly recommend it should possibly be at 3, because banishing your Vendread monsters isn't the end of the world, because you do play other cards such as... So now this comes down to personal preference. I play 1 Pot of Equivocativeness for that draw, but there's also the 1 Burial from a Different Dimension. Now, either of these can be 2 ofs if you want. Now, obviously, the Pot of Equivocativeness gives you your Slayer back in deck, plus gives you that extra draw, but your Burial from a Different Dimension lets you recycle your Vendread monsters back into your graveyard, as well as stuff like your Mizukis, your Solitaires, anything you've banished off the snow as well, monster-wise. So either of these 2 can be very, very good, and it does come down to personal preference of which one you would prefer. We then play the 1 Foolish Burial and, of course, the 1 Monster Reborn. Use it and abuse it while you can, because I'd be very, very surprised this survives the format. And then, of course, the last 2 tracks you play is the 1 Vendread Revolution, which the artwork kind of doesn't do it justice. The card effect doesn't do the artwork justice. So you discard 1 card, then target a Vendread monster and 1 ritual spell in your graveyard and special summon that monster in defense position. And if you do, you add the ritual spell to your hand. You can banish this card from your graveyard, then target 5 of your banished zombie monsters, shuffle them into the deck, then draw 1 card. You're going to use each effect once per turn. So obviously, the issue is it's so restricted on having 5 banished, which isn't too hard to do if you're bringing back your Vendread monsters, letting them leave the board, gaining the effects to a ritual monster and going forward that way. But, you know, it's entirely down to you. I love the artwork. I still think it's a good one-off. You don't very rarely want to see it in your opening hand because it can be quite slow. You do kind of want it sent to graveyard as well, more for that effect late game, kind of like Zodiac combo, but not as consistent. And then, of course, the 1 Solemn Judgment, because it will always be live in the game. And again, it could possibly survive the quarter. You know, I wouldn't be surprised if it got banned, but I wouldn't be surprised if it survives it, because it is a very, very powerful card. And, you know, it's definitely taking the place of Solemn Warning for that one. Now onto the extra deck. We play, for the Synchros, the level 10 Shiranui Sun Saga. You can play Shiranui's Swallow Style Slash in the deck if you want to. That does give you another option for plays around. So it is, like I said, it does come down to personal preference, and a 60 card deck is definitely on the cards, because there's so many good cards to play in the deck. It's really narrowing it down to exactly what you want. We then play the 1 Bills. Now, like I said, this is where the money starts coming into it. It's kind of hard to avoid that, in the sense that you don't have to play Bills. Bills is one you could possibly take out, but what you do have to play is Cyframe Lord Omega, and I looked at these the other day and they're going at about 20 quid, and that's the same issue. If you want to take Bills out, I'll definitely put in a double Omega, because you want to recycle your Mizukis, your other your Vendread monsters, your Shiranui monsters, and then ripping one from your opponent's hands always going to be powerful. If you are on a very tight budget, I would then advise to possibly bump either Shiranui Shogun Saga up 1, if you want to be more budget, or of course, definitely bump up Scarlight Red Dragon Archfiend, because he is a game winner. He is very, very powerful in this deck, and definitely wins you games hands down. For the last level 8 we play is the one Void Ogre Dragon. Now again, you don't have to play this is down to personal preference. There's nothing that's real staple in the extra deck in my personal opinion, because of the ritual monsters. They don't need to rely on it. It's more the zombie engine of your Uni-Zombie and your Solitaire that you kind of want your Omegas to kind of clear out your extra deck space and go from there. Other than that, we do have the one Clearwing. We also have the one Moon Black Rose for the board wipes. And then we've got the one Coral Dragon for the discard fodder, pop in, and the extra draw. Then for our XYZs, quite staple in that one, we've got the Castel, we've got the number 41 Baguska, and we've got the full Phantom Knights of Breaksword. Again, you can easily put in stuff like, if you were to put in the Spectral Sword, you could put in your Archfiend. You could also put in the Revived King Hadass. You could also put in Tornado Dragons and stuff like that. It really depends on what you kind of fancy and what you want to put into the extra deck yourself. Underclock Taker, because that can be very, very powerful and useful, beating over bigger boards. The one Deco Talker, kind of a staple. And then the one Borrowload Dragon. Now again, budget's kind of gone out the window on this one because of the extra deck. That's where the budget kind of stops, because as soon as you get to the extra deck, you are stumped. If you want to make this more budget, you could put in a Topological Bomber Dragon. You can also put in like an Akessic Magician if you want to as another alternative. It really comes down to personal preference, like I've said. But regardless, it's still an incredibly fun and powerful deck to play. And with the meta wide open the way it is, there's no reason not to try something new with the deck. Anyway, I hope this helps. I hope to give you a couple of ideas for a Vendread deck of your own. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, share. Until Thursday, guys. See ya.